What is up? What's up, everybody? It is episode 75. That's right, episode 75 of the Stan and 8 podcast. I'm the host today, Tommy Rush Jr. We got the usual suspect, the brown bird sugar, Courtney Tanner. And then also, we got the first lady of boxing, Tiffanie Daniels. And then first time guest, great guy, Stephen Ruiz, Ringside Global. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. We're big supporters of you guys. When you guys are boxing fans, as intelligent as you guys are and as good-hearted, you can't help but love the show.
Hey, man. Hey, we appreciate you, dude. We appreciate you, man. Always. It was great chopping it up with you, talking a lot of boxing, covering boxing for the Virgil Ortiz fight. Wonderful time there. So always a pleasure, man. And everybody go make sure that y'all check him out and give him a follow, Ringside Global. So, Courtney, how you feeling today, bro?
Hey, I'm feeling spectacular. Anytime, any evening we can get to congregate with like minds and discuss the wonderful sport of boxing, I'm all about it. We in here. Hey, let's do away with the pleasantries, engage in this war of words. Let's talk some shit.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Tiffany, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm glad to be on again tonight with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Yes. So we about to get right into it. Like we don't have this stacked agenda today. We just got to talk about an amazing fight, an amazing event that we saw yesterday. Terence Crawford, Terence Bud Crawford versus Shawn Showtime Porter. Phenomenal fight that we just saw yesterday in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay, where Terence Crawford, WBO champion, pulled off the 10th round TKO victory. There there's a lot of talk about what we saw, throughout the fight, to start the fight. It to a lot of people, not surprised, but from what a lot of people expected. We saw Shawn come out and try to fight that rugged fight and make it his type of bout. We saw Terrence do what he does. He came in collecting that data for the first few rounds, and then things got interesting. So let's go ahead and get into it. Steven, Mr. Ringside Global, we're gonna kick it to you first, man. Give us your thoughts on the fight.
I think it was a really good fight. I think anytime you're fighting Shawn Porter, you're not going to look your best. And that's okay, because what we see in his record is when he does fight the elite fighters, they collect the data like Bud Crawford did, and then utilize it later on in the rounds. So when you have guys that have beat him, they're not guys that he lost by fluke. Errol Spence, Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, these are all top guys of that division for years. So now Bud finally getting his crack at it. He kind of, it went the way I thought. He was going to let Shawn kind of come in and do his thing. But nobody really looks great against Shawn Porter. He's just a tough, rugged fighter. As he said, he lives in those awkward moments, not letting you really do your thing. But I think we all knew he was going to come in and be right in Bud's chest if Bud allowed it. And I think he got away with going in there like he does, where he rushes a little bit, where he can be hit. Like Derek James has said back in 2019 when he was fighting with Errol Spence, he can be hit. And there was a lot of times where Bud was very, very close to catching him when he would duck in and things like that. So I think Bud did his job. He did what he had to do. He did get the stoppage, questionable, however you may think about it. Obviously, I'm from Dallas, like most, so we're very much on the Spence side. So it's just a little bit weird that he did that no feeling out round. I was impressed. Bud did his thing and added his name to the names of the guys that have beat Porter, and that the only elite guys have done that. So props to him. You got to tip your hat off to him. And, both guys went out there and delivered a great performance. Shawn Porter tried his best.
Love it, man. Absolutely, dude. There were a lot of things that were expected in that fight, and we will absolutely be getting into the stoppage, the way the stoppage went down, everybody's thoughts around that as well. Tiffany, what you got, man?
Well, I don't know. I've been telling people for the past 5, 6 years that Bud was my favorite fighter. Nobody can beat him. He was the best at 140. And when he moved up to 147, he was the best at 147, and nobody can beat him. And I just think that he's shown improved. And I'm from Ohio, so a lot of people. I don't know if Marcus Nall was out here watching because he was on my case about going for Bud instead of Porter because Porter's from Akron. But like Steven said, it kind of went the kind of way that we expected. I didn't expect Bud to stop him. I will admit to that. I thought that he probably knocked him down a couple of times. I thought it was going to end up going a distance because Shawn is tough. And it was like a rough, rugged fight. That's what I expected from Shawn. But I don't think Shawn expected for Bud to kind of bully him back, right? He kind of bullied him back. He wasn't taking no shit from Porter at all. And I actually had Porter up in the beginning part of the fight. And then I was like, when we got probably around the 6th round, he kind of started turning it around. And I told somebody, well, I had a big fight party, by the way. I had a huge fight party. We had the bar on lock, and everybody, all eyes on me because I told everybody in there that Bud was going to beat the hell out of him. So, but Porter, he fought a great fight. It's all that I expected from Porter. He did amazing, and he can keep his head held high, like Steven alluded to. He's fought nothing but the best. He doesn't duck anybody, so we got to give him props for that.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. I mean, even before this fight, and I mean, shit, he's honestly, he's got one of the strongest resumes out there right now. In this division and in boxing, with the active fighters right now. I think that we even kind of joked about it, some episodes in the past where we're like, man, how does this dude lose these fights? And he's like still like damn near the main attraction. Like he's eating more than everybody else is. And it's because of his style. And yeah, that most definitely also on that plug, shout out to Marcus Null. Ohio runs boxing, but not last night. Hey, Brown Bird Sugar, let's get at it, man.
So I think y'all on there. I'm pretty much on wax. It's kind of turning code. I had initially when the fight was made, I said, Porter was going to be tailor made for Crawford because we all know Crawford likes his fights are always turn into being violent, just violent displays of the inhumanity. And that's initially how I saw it when the fight was first announced. Then last week when we were on the air, I kind of had an epiphany that Terence Crawford ultimately he's on this mission to cross the street and take out Errol Spence and basically rough him up, jack him up, and take what he wants from him, which is the IBF and the WBC welterweight titles. And I think he, for all intents and purposes, he's still on that mission. But I saw how that would relate to this fight, the man in front of him, Shawn Porter. I was thinking, you know what? He's probably not going to show all of his versatility. It's probably going to be pedestrian to the later part of the fight, and then he's going to seek to differentiate himself in those later rounds and get a firm decision. I just thought he would leave something on the table to where Errol Spence would see something in him and be like, you know what, let's go ahead and make the fight. I can beat this dude. But how it ended, and as we saw Errol Spence's reaction in the stands, where he saw that knockout, told the entourage, yo, let's get up out of here, let's go. And that look on his face, I think Crawford didn't make his job alluring Errol Spence into the ring any easier, man. But yeah, the way the fight ended, that surprised me because I think we all saw the tide turning in that fight. We saw it as a situation, especially I forget which round it was, but there was that moment in the fight where Crawford was just in the middle of the ring, literally pushing Shawn Porter off of him as he was coming at him, and to me that was telling. And that was, I think that was him putting that middle note into Porter's mind is that, okay, you're a tank, you know what I'm saying? You keep coming, but that shit is not going to end well for you, and it didn't. As far as the stoppage, on one end, I agree with Kenny Porter's assessment, and a lot of the commentary's assessment that it was just a precursor. What happened in the 10th round, it was a precursor. It wasn't going to get any better for him, and that wasn't going to have a good outcome for Shawn Porter. He wasn't going to be able to turn it around, and in that he was probably going to sustain some damage in there on the way to the knockout or the way to getting sent home early, but it was unsatisfying. The stoppage, it was unsatisfying. If you're on the canvas and you're beating your fist against the canvas out of frustration and wanting to get up and wanting to go again, I think he should have been given that opportunity to do so. Obviously, I'm not privy to the dynamic that Shawn Porter and Kenny Porter have, but that was that was the right thing for their corner. That was you're gonna in anything in life, you're gonna protect your own. You're gonna protect your blood. You're gonna protect your son. I think that's what he felt he was doing. So ultimately, I have no problem with that decision. But with him then saying basically Shawn Porter was not prepared for the fight, and basically his dad just throwing him under the bus and dogging him out, that I thought that was that was so tasteless. And then with the and it just made the announcement of Shawn Porter's retirement later on that evening. It just made it. I think that put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, mine included, because I just felt like Shawn Porter has shown so much courage in the ring throughout his career, and showed so much courage within that fight last night with Terence Bud Crawford. That shouldn't have been the narrative. But I mean, all props to Terence Crawford. Another great performance, another defining performance, as he has basically answered the question that comes up over and over again: what has this guy really done at 147 to back up all these claims, to back up all this talk, to back up the justification of where he ranks so highly on the pound for pound list? He went in there and he beat up and sent home early a dude who is a two-time champ in the weight division, and has given everybody of note in that division high holy hell in the ring. And he put him away. So I mean, and the thing is too is, from what my assessment was when the fight was first announced to last week to what we ultimately saw last night, I think Terence Crawford could have done that a lot earlier if he'd been more active leading up to that fight. That's a Terence Bud Crawford who's coming in the ring to face Shawn Porter, who has been out of the ring for the better part of a year, if not longer than that. And I think if he come in with off of maybe having fought a few months before that, he probably would have did the same thing to Porter, but he would have done it in like round 5 or round 6. So
yeah, man. So my assessment of the fight was, one, I called that shit, and I'm so pissed that I didn't bet. Shout out to Rick Muhammad. Hey, he cashed out. He cashed out, man, and I wish I would have joined him. So he got it right as well. I The one thing that I did not have called was that it was going to be his dad stopping it. I did call. I felt that it was going to be um, a ref stoppage and still be a TKO 10 round. I think last week, I think I may have said 10th or 11th round, but pre-fight did call 10 rounds. Um, the first initially, the fight did go exact. I mean, the fight really went the way that I expected it to go overall. Um, we saw Porter come out. We saw him try to be aggressive. The one thing that I did notice watching those rounds, that a lot of people, myself included, did give Porter those rounds, was even in him winning those rounds, as Courtney said, it was like Bud was still kind of letting him know, like, I'm not gonna let you just get off on being the linebacker in the ring with me. You're not gonna just bully me around. You're not gonna be just grabbing me and twisting me around all over the place and doing the things that you do to rough people up. You're not gonna get up, and you're definitely not gonna get under my skin. When it comes to that. As expected, Crawford, he normally collects that data. And around round 5 or 6 is when he really starts to let that dog come out. He typically doesn't do that in that first half of the fight, which, for a lot of people can be dangerous, especially if you have somebody that's as aggressive and active as somebody like Shawn Porter in the ring with you. I did see a couple times where I think it may have been round 3 or 4 or so, where it did get kind of snippy and it turned into like that little bit of a firefight. And they even told, and his corner even told him, Bomac, and they all told him, like, hey, do not get caught up in this with this guy. Box him, box him, because they already know Bud he's with the shits. He's down to get into that type of fight and that type of bout. So he's like, hey, if we want to go, then we can go and we can start now. But he got back on his horse. He was moving around. A lot of people will say that he was, he was dodgy a little bit, maybe too much for some people's liking. But I feel that he was still trying to be as technical as possible and actually listen to his corner and box him. Late in those later rounds, he turned it up. He started to show, like a lot of people say and see that he's a strong dude. He may be more of a thinner body type, but he's a strong, powerful type guy. And he's formidable when it comes to that. And he doesn't let anybody just push him around. Like he's gonna get with it, and he's gonna stand his ground, and he's gonna let you know what's going on. He started to break that down. He started to get more comfortable. You could see him in the ring where he's like, messing, just dancing around and shaking it off in the ring right in front of Porter. And so like towards the end of the fight, I think that stoppage, I agree. And we'll get everybody's thoughts on that. But I agree. I think that, they, as Porter kind of said post fight, that win, lose, or draw, this was the likely outcome. After this fight was a retirement. I feel that was something that this was kind of just like, preserve what you can, as you just got knocked down twice, and it was going to absolutely get worse for him. That we know how Bud gets towards the end of fights, where it gets very dangerous and very quickly. And maybe that just didn't need to even be seen. It didn't even need to be on his legacy. But I do agree with Courtney that, the type of warrior that Shawn Porter has been throughout his whole entire career, he didn't deserve for it to kind of go out like that. And for those comments that, that his dad made, he's like, what did he say? Oh, I live right across the street from him. They just got done promoing that before the fight, about them living across the street from each other and shit. And he's like, oh yeah, we eat breakfast together. I'm like, well, what you trying to say with not prepared? Like he eating too much sausage and bacon, or what's going on here? Like, what are you really trying to say here? So like, I just feel like that part was all unnecessary. He really didn't need to go there. Preparation was not it, in my opinion. I mean, I think that there was much more respect, which was deserved, but much more respect for Crawford's skill set and what Crawford was going to do to him than, belief in his son and letting him go ahead and finish that fight out, the way that he would want to, and would want to finish actually his whole entire career. Steven, what you got?
I was gonna say maybe he got plagued by eating too many McRibs. That McRib came out. That McRib came out right about the time training camp started, and it gets everybody, Mr. Rush, and you know that. I did want to say, I did want to say that now that I know Mr. Tanner's an Eagle fan, I don't mind rocking the boat with him a little bit, because he had said something a second ago, respectfully, that it answered some questions, but I would say we could argue that it didn't, because at the end of the day, he's fighting a guy that already had in his mind he was retiring. So you're going in to fight one of the so-called best pound-for-pound fighters in the game, and people can argue that. That's no problem. That's not a strange argument to make. But you're going to say, I'm going after the LeBron James. I'm going after the Michael Jordan on a one-on-one. But after this, I'm going to retire. That's not how that goes. If you're going at the king, you better come all in with everything you've got. Not, hey, after this one, it's my last check from Mr. Al Heyman, and then we're rolling out. So to me, you could argue there's more question because at the end of the day, you beat the third best guy at PBC, not the first, because Spence has got those belts. So you beat a guy with no belts and 3 losses on his record that are some other guys already touched that. So just for the argument's sake of having fun too, so we're not all singing the same praises. Like I said, it's just playing the devil's advocate because I could say, okay, Porter, rugged, Hall of Fame, maybe career, but just because you fought the top guys and lost to all of them doesn't make you now an elite fighter. You just had the pleasure of fighting the top guys. So I wouldn't say necessarily questions were answered because that stoppage wasn't a Fury Wilder fight number 2 stoppage where, your head's getting popped back left and right. You saw Shawn go down, bang his fist on the canvas a couple times. So he's lucid. He knows what's happening. He knows he's a fighter. He knows, dang, I just messed up. I just got caught 2 stupid things back to back. But his legs aren't gone. He's not looking concussed. Eyes ain't rolled back. He's not trying to crawl off the canvas Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas style, looking for his mouthpiece to throw it back in and barely beating the counts. This is a guy that I think a year or 2 ago, this fight's going 12 rounds. Kenny Porter's not going into the fight with his hand already on the towel, ready to throw it at any second. So just for a conversation side, I would say that stoppage was a little crazy because at the end of the day, Kenny works for Shawn, not the other way around. And when you go through the interviews, we all see it. Kenny's got his own personality. I don't know what dad is out there, in my eyes, looking like he's charging his son a premium to train him. This guy's got the same exact stuff, and one's the fighter, one's the trainer. And you see Triple G with Abel Sanchez. Abel Sanchez said, hey, man, I need more. You're making more. And Triple G said, that. It was a good run. You're out now. So there's a lot of things, like I said, just to play devil's advocate. I think maybe Errol Spence even knew, man, that looked like a whack stoppage to me. I don't know if I'm all for that. I can be all up in that, knowing then hindsight's 2020, seeing that Shawn retired 2 hours after the final bell. So they already knew that what was going to happen going into the last fight. So I don't know if he's losing the fight and he's down 5 or 6 rounds, by all means, throw in the towel. It's not looking good. But Tommy Rush, myself included, the first 4 rounds, I'm like, Shawn, Bud. So it's competitive. It's not just a straight out wash. Poor Bud Crawford. So it was a little bit fishy from the start, and then we just kind of saw why it ended up being that way when they announced the retirement. And then later on in the post-fight conference, Kenny says, I already knew going into that fight I was going to throw in that towel. I don't know too many trainers that are going into their fight with their guy like that already knowing, oh, we're throwing in the towel. So to me, it brings more questions than answers. And like I said, just a friendly rocking of the boat to Mr. Tanner. Like I said, just to bring different sides to have some good debate. I would say, I don't know, man, beating a guy that just retired and the third best that PBC has to offer, I don't know, because you could say, well, Shawn Porter retired, so Errol Spence at PBC is number 1. Underneath him, you could say Thurman. I mean, he still fights. He's not retiring as far as I know, and both of those guys beat Shawn. So not to take anything away from Bud Crawford, I see Miss Tiffanie not liking my comments, but you know what I mean?
That's her Ohio brethren right there.
And that's okay. But like I said, it's just it can leave more questions, and that's all I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, he beat a guy 3 losses and no belt. If you boil it all the way down, so we have to see. And then the last thing I'll leave it with this is Bud Crawford's last 2 opponents retired. You know what I mean? Like, they retired not because, Bud beat them so bad. They retired because they were towards the end of their careers. So I would say I would let Miss Tiffanie go at that, or Mr. Tanner go at that respectfully. I mean, Kell Brook already got both of his eye sockets busted out by Triple G and Spence. And then, Porter beat him. He retired. Shawn Porter goes into this fight, looks decent, giving him a good fight, retires on a weird stoppage. So that's what I would leave it at. Just to, like I said, play devil's advocate, have a little bit of fun rather than us all singing Kumbaya and say the McRib's the best sandwich to ever come out of McDonald's.
Hey, it's the most important.
Okay. All right, you're playing devil's advocate on that, but okay, I gotta back it up to the Spence comment to where like about the eye socket or whatever. But Spence. Come on, all right. Spence beat Kell Brook coming off the eye socket, him having a damaged eye socket too. So, and he was coming up 13 pounds. He was coming back down 13 pounds from where he was. So, I mean, that's why I hate boxing fans, man. That's why I love boxing, but I hate us as fans, even myself sometimes. I'll be looking at myself after some of these comments, be like, damn, you disgust me, man. But the thing is, ultimately, all right. You say, the thing is, okay, just because you still have questions or because there are more questions that have been formed in your mind that doesn't belie Crawford not having answered some questions. And, I'm saying, all the questions that you're posing, though, they're legit. They're rooted in some real talk, and I can only respond to real talk. But the thing ultimately, what I'm saying as far as the questions being answered by Crawford is, the win is a win. You don't see caveats by people's wins in the ledger. He beat the man. You can only fight the people who are willing to step in the ring with him. And Porter has shown more acumen to get in the ring with top opposition than Errol Spence has. Shawn Porter didn't make excuses. He lobbied for this fight. And then
for one last more payday.
Hey, but this is prize fighting. None of these guys are doing it for free. I was like, what I'm saying? And then ultimately, though, what Shawn Porter has accomplished in the game is not diminished by him having a retirement mind state set into this. At the end of the day, Crawford still beat a 2-time welterweight champion, like I said, who was giving everybody else before that high holy hell. And ultimately, yes, you can have those questions, but the question that it's going to always come back to you is, who else made Shawn Porter look like that? Who else made Shawn Porter look like Terence Crawford made him look on Saturday night?
But he's also at the end of his career. So you could look good against, Muhammad Ali when he's on his last 2 fights and be like, I just beat Muhammad Ali into retirement. And, that's just the good about boxing is you can debate both sides. And it is tough when you start debating, well, who else made Shawn look like that? But the guy just retired and he came in, like I said, with 1 foot out the door. That's a hard mindset as a boxer to come in to say, hey, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to work my job, but I'm working my job on my 2 weeks notice. You think you're going to get the same
That's moving goalposts on Crawford too, though. You know what I'm saying? Because the question that is always dogged Crawford is like, all right, who has he fought? Who has he fought at 147 to where he can make all this noise or whatever? Then he fought somebody who fits the bill, and then we're saying, well, damn, he had 1 foot outside the door. Ultimately, if he beats Errol Spence, like he's been lobbying for the Errol Spence fight. If he beats Errol Spence, are we gonna blame it on the car accident? Are we gonna blame it on the detached retina? Come on now,
no.
Like I'm saying, it's like how far do you keep moving before you saying you put some respect on the accomplishment?
So he doesn't even to me as a guy that likes Spence, I respect Bud Crawford. He doesn't even have to beat Spence. He could beat Taylor. And that's it. You don't need to fight Spence for me. If you beat Taylor, you beat another dude that is the man. But as you put, Mr. Chen, you said he beat the man. But right now, Shawn Porter's not the man. To be the man, you have to beat the man. And that is not Shawn Porter. So then you could say, hey, well, he's up on, crowning him the next best thing this week in boxing. Because, boxing fans are very fickle. And it's what have you done lately? And even like a Canelo, he just become first guy to be undisputed. Well, now he's ducking somebody else, a guy with no belt. So that's boxing, and that's boxing fans, and it happens. And the goalposts, like you said, are always moving. But again, to me, you beat Shawn Porter. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And Porter, respectfully, with a great resume and everything, he is not the man right now. Nobody's lobbying for a Bud Porter fight. They were lobbying for a Bud Spence or Bud Taylor fight. So if he beats Taylor, he's got it. You don't have to fight Spence for me. That's just my own my own little take.
I mean, personally, I'd love to see the Bud versus Taylor fight as well. But we already know, we already know the talking heads around boxing. It's gonna be the narrative on that is gonna be like he beat a junior welterweight. You know what I'm saying? Let's be real about it. I mean, as far as Errol Spence being the man, I don't know. I really, you know what I'm saying? I really don't know because the thing is, it can even say that position or that designation is fluid within boxing. It's fluid within boxing. As Matt Kellerman said, boxing is ultimately what have you done for me lately? And the thing is, at this point, where after we've seen Saturday night, the narrative switches is we haven't seen Errol Spence in the ring for a while, but we just saw Terence Crawford, and we just saw Terence Crawford send a dude home early who Errol Spence struggled with. You know what I'm saying? We just, and the thing is, with Kell Brook, when Errol Spence was having a tricky time with with Kell Brook before ultimately the injury forced the stoppage or whatever. When Crawford was in with him, he went in there and it was a seek and destroy mission basically. I mean, we're saying you can always throw the intangibles. It's like, all right, there was an injury, there was a retirement mind state or whatever, but ultimately Terence Crawford is lobbying for Spence, and the two big designators he can use or the two big trump cards he can pull out is I beat two dudes that you beat way more comprehensively than you were able to do it. So
years
I mean,
later.
That's the same thing that we saw with Pacquiao and Floyd.
Exactly.
But Pacquiao and Floyd, to Mr. Rush's point is, but Pacquiao wasn't never had fought guy or wasn't not fighting guys, just like Floyd wasn't not fighting guys. That maybe over marinated, like passive desperation, like a Kell Brook Khan, or maybe even scary, like we're getting into something with Spence and Crawford, with Spence having the accident, where it's like, man, you wait too much longer, people might not see it as you guys went at it when everybody wanted you to go at it. So it's just, but Pacquiao Floyd. Manny Pacquiao's best win wasn't to a guy with 3 losses and no belt, to his credit too. Just like Floyd Mayweather at that time, his best win wasn't against a guy with 3 losses and no belt either. So both of those guys, their resumes spoke for themselves. They were already Hall of Famers before.
3 losses and no belt, but a 2-time champ in the division.
Yeah, like I said, he gets his hat tipped on, but the questions, like I said, just when you said he answered questions, and like I said, not a disrespectfully, just for the argument's sake, I could say, well, he answered 2 questions, but I can give you 4 more because his last 2 fighters that he fought just retired. So are they really all in it? Are they looking for one last payday? Because what has Kell Brook done since he fought Bud? Nothing. He retired. Where have we heard of Jeff Horn? Bud Crawford said in the interview, I felt like I did better against Jeff Horn. Well, Jeff Horn got a robbery decision against Manny Pacquiao. We all know that, and was never heard from again after Bud just went ahead and did what he does, and just to show why he's the better fighter and plucked that belt right off him. Jeff Horn's nowhere to be found. So that's just why sometimes those questions linger. And I looked at a Derek James interview. We lost Mr. Maybe the gentleman there.
He'll jump back on.
No worries. I looked at an interview from September 5th, 2019, where Derek James, right before he fought Porter, said, I think Shawn has plateaued because he's there to be hit, and he hasn't learned anything new since that time. So it did make me question, like, Derek James in 2019 offered to bring Shawn Porter in to start training him because maybe his dad and him hit that plateau like a Danny Garcia, Angel Garcia, where, hey man, Danny keeps making the same mistakes, and that's okay, but you're making the same mistakes when you're fighting the elite guys, and it takes something more, maybe an outsider view, to say, hey, what you're missing, Angel Garcia, to Danny, or hey, Kenny, what you're missing to Shawn are these minor things, and maybe you don't go 0-2 or 0-3 against top level competitions. Maybe you split, or maybe you win a couple more. So that's just, like I said, something that I saw that Derek James said in 2019 that I said, you know what, it gives me cause for pause, because that was something that was said 2 years ago. So it just something that came back into my mind. But Like I said, just all good boxing talk. I like raising different points for or against. You could flip the coin, and I'll argue till you could tell me right now, hey, Steven, it's nighttime. I'll argue the whole time till the sun comes up, and then you're wrong, and it's daytime. That's just, I like boxing. I like debate. I don't like the McRib, but hey, you love it, so I like you, Mr. Rush, so we're all good.
Hey, the Arby's rib sandwich is better.
Hey, yeah, that MRE one. Tiff, we saw you. What you got?
Man, you could argue that Shawn is number 3, but who at number 1 or number 2 was coming to fight Crawford? Let's be real. He had to cross the street to get to this point, and nobody's gonna give this guy no credit. But what I can say is that Spence didn't look like he was interested in fighting Crawford at all. He could have easily gotten that ring and said something. He didn't do anything. He got the hell up out of Dodge with the quickness. As soon as they put that camera on his face, he was out of here. So that was one thing, and I don't know necessarily that if Shawn Porter, if that was a retirement mindset, maybe that was in their game plan all along. And I don't think his dad mean like, I was ready to throw in the towel. Maybe he just meant I was ready to throw in the towel if my son was hurt, because when he got knocked down that second time, he kind of did like a little stutter step before he started banging his hands on the ground. And so if they had that conversation before, like, look, I'm not going to let you take no punishment because you're my son, number 1. And there's no need to do that. Let's live to see another day, because we all knew what was coming. If Shawn would have got off that canvas, he was getting knocked clean the fuck out. Like, he was getting knocked out. It was just only a matter of minutes. So I think Kenny saved him. I didn't care for his comments afterwards. I thought that was tasteless. But other than that, I think he did the right thing. And, you say, oh, well, it leaves a lot of questions. He did what Errol Spence could not do. He did that. So I don't understand. Keith Thurman is probably on a meditation retreat right now. I don't know what the hell this guy's doing. Where
Namaste.
is he? Namaste, right? Like, where this dude doesn't even count.
Playing the flute.
Right. So I was like, you say you got to beat the man. Well, Errol Spence, if he's the man, he need to get his ass in there. What's the hold up? Let's go. Go ahead, Steven.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. Me, you, everybody on both sides, on the Team Errol or Team Crawford, don't matter. Or even if you're just a boxing fan in the middle where you want to see the best guys. However, I definitely think they missed a huge opportunity in saying, kind of like Canelo when he called out Triple G and had him in the ring and said, you're next, my friend, I'm coming. When you do stuff like that, it gets the blood pumping on both sides, where it gets the people saying, we're going to buy that fight no matter what day it is. I don't care if it's a Wednesday or a Sunday. I saw where Spence jumped in that ring and they went toe-to-toe and they got in each other's face. And then he tells them, I did what you couldn't do. And Spence says, well, you did it to a retired fighter. And they're jawing back and forth. It gets the people, the sound bites and the clips you need. But that to me was a huge missed opportunity. I completely agree. I agree with with you when you said the Kenny Porter thing, because now you're saying that he wasn't prepared, so I stopped it. But you're the coach. It's your job to prepare him. So you're saying, I didn't do my job well enough, so I stopped it. That's crazy. I couldn't have a son and him getting nothing but F's in school. It's my job to prepare him, and I can't just pull him out of school now. You got to do what you got to do to make sure that you or your kin, your son, your daughter, they are in the best position. And if you said we didn't set up the best position and that's your job, that L is on you. So I don't agree with, like I said, just like you, Tiffanie, I don't agree with that, with his comments. You can make the case he did what he could do, but we will never know, because Kenny Porter did what Kenny Porter wanted to do and threw in the towel. We don't know if he'll ever be knocked out. Maybe Shawn holds around for 3 more rounds and it goes to decision. Bud wins. A great night of boxing. It just makes it weird now with what Kenny did to me. But I agree. They missed a huge opportunity to be able to sell a mega fight. He could have even said, the Tartan Tornado, get your ass in the ring too. You can get body bags too. You can get smoked too, whoever. He could have said, I don't care if Errol Spence comes in here or the Tartan Tornado, Josh Taylor. any one of y'all, the first one to jump in here, I'll make it happen. And that's on the Bud Crawford promise. And then now all of us are like, he's for real. He called them both out here. And you saw, and because then what is Spence or what is Taylor going to do? I'm not going up there. It makes it puts the ball in their court and it puts the camera on them to show who's really about it. And that's where I feel like there's a lot of stuff that got missed.
My thing is too is I don't think Bud is rushing to put any more money back in Aram's pocket. And if he decides on Taylor, ultimately he's gonna, you know what I'm saying, he's got to work with Aram again to do that. I mean, I'm not saying I think Bud has a personality where like he can, you know what I'm saying, whoever can get it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I think him having thoughts and views and words for Josh Taylor, that's something he's not going to vocalize. I think Josh Taylor certainly will call him out after he beats Cantrell over in Glasgow. But the thing is, I don't think that's where his mind state is, because I mean that ingratiates him once again to Aram, even if they do a one-off deal or whatnot. But I think Bud is looking at this from the perspective of like, damn, yo, I showed loyalty. I did what I was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Even though I came out of nowhere, and you had to build, around me or whatever, and my personality didn't link into what your promotional vision was for me or whatnot. But Crawford's time with Top Rank, he stayed down. He stayed consistent. He told, he told the line. But ultimately, Bud Crawford, he was promised Pacquiao. Pacquiao didn't come to fruition, and that was on Pacquiao. You know what I'm saying? Basically, bolting across the street rather than fighting him or whatever. Then, you know what I'm saying, he was promised, Aram was promised, well, we'll do what we can to get you this fight with Errol Spence when they had nobody available for him. And ultimately, that, that fell through. That couldn't happen. So I think, Bud, with his comments towards Aram, and, when Bud said, hey, he couldn't get me Spence, so I think this is pretty much run its course. Aram, and Bob Aram is usually, he don't take no shit in that regard. He's usually animated. He's usually up in toes or up on his arms and whatever. But he was pretty much like nodded in agreement, like, yeah, I mean, hey, you got every right to feel that way. And I think, I think in terms of Taylor, I think Crawford is not closing the door on that, but ultimately I think Crawford is like, yo, the goal is Spence, because I'm at 147, he's at 147, and I've been calling that dude out for years. Josh Taylor came into some belts and came into the public consciousness relatively a short time ago. He can get it too, but honestly, I've been calling Spence out for years. We at the same division. I have now crossed the street. Like, what's up? Like, and then in terms of Errol Spence's reaction to that, we could take that back to the movie Friday, where it's like, I don't think Smokey wanted to follow Debo in that house, but peer pressure is a motherfucker. Like, you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, and that was the next thing that I wanted to get into. Homie Pop Smoke quick, like he got out of there quick. Like the whole entourage was ready to roll. Like you saw his face. He's like, man, like, come on now. And I know, we kind of joked about it a little bit post fight and said, hey, maybe he recognized like Heyman paid them boys off to sell this mega fight real good. Make this look real good on your way out, and we're gonna make this shit happen down this road. So he got the hell up out of there. I do feel that like what you said, Steven, the Triple G and Canelo thing, like it was. What I will say is it was almost like WWE like the way they had that shit set up. But who sells shit more than WWE? Like, when we gonna be honest, like for real, like they can fucking sell a story. And the way that happened when they got in the ring, like they already had the marketing shit together. Like, this is going down. Drop that shit. Like, boom. Like, this could have been one of those moments where it was like, hey, people been talking about this shit for years already. Like this is already in Pacquiao Mayweather territory. Drop that shit. Get in the ring. And he just did.
But you also got to keep this in mind too, is that was a Top Rank pay-per-view.
True.
Bob Arum It's just like, yo, you climb your ass in there if you want to. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
true.
If you climb your ass in there, then I'm gonna need you to sign these papers. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah,
extending this top rank deal for another 3 years or so, or whatever.
you
You know
right
what I'm saying?
about that.
Uncle Bob. It's like you better take that shit over to Showtime or Fox. Like, we
Yeah,
don't do that over here.
Bob is a horrible promoter.
Bob had the electronic fence around the ring. Like, nah, he ain't climbing his ass on. I turned the light on this mug. Steve, what's up?
I was gonna say, and I think you kind of saw where Bob obviously knew it was kind of ran its course, because rightfully so. If Bud Crawford's getting the heat that he does from fans like myself, and you got Tiffanie that's riding for him, and people are butting heads, Bud Crawford's like, look, my fans want me to show who I am and what I can do against the best, and at the end of the day, y'all aren't delivering. So to your point, yes. And then I think it was Bob kind of like, yeah, we're done, because they didn't even make the weigh-ins open to the public. And, we see the week before the Canelo plant weigh-ins are open, and it looks like it's a fight atmosphere already. And the fact that Bob Arum's like, no, we ain't opening the weigh-ins to no fans. They're tuning if they want, but this is my last one with them. Like I said, I take it back to that 2-week analogy. You're not putting your best effort when you're in your 2 weeks last job. You're like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing what I got to do, I'm just here so I don't get fined. That kind of mentality.
Yep.
And that's what I think Bob went into this fight, because he's talking, but he's not doing what he needs to do. Like he's promoting one of his guys that he knows he's got a 3, 4, 5 fight contract with. So to Bud's credit, he's doing the best with what he's got. I 100% get that too. So it's hard, because there's boxing, then there's the business side of boxing, and then you have the promoters, and there's just so many different styles of the boxing game that can affect a fighter on how much they grow and develop, or how their star can fizzle out.
Man, so I posted this here in the comments and put it up on there. So this was Spence's only reaction to the fight, talking shit about Kenny Porter. If I was Shawn, I wouldn't pay my daddy. That's it. That's his only response. Like, bro, you know what we need to be hearing from you. Like, and so coming up to this fight, there was a lot of talk from Bud, and he did a little bit of it post fight as well by saying like, I don't need Spence, but he was like super strong. Like any interview where he was at a fight or any interaction, if Spence came up, he was, I mean, on lives, on IG interviews, whatever it is. I'm past Spence. Like, I'm done talking about that. I'm done. I'm moved on, all of that. But when he was in the post fight in that ring, he was looking. He said, "Oh, he came to my fight. Oh, he was at one of my fights. Oh, where he at?" Like he made sure he got his moment, and he came back to it a little bit. Now, once he got into the actual post fight interviews, he did say, I don't need Spence. So he's back on that train. And then, as we already talked about, his pretty much announcement of officially saying that he is going to be leaving Top Rank, where he says, I'm pretty sure my decision is already made. Bob couldn't secure me the Spence fight of when I was with him. When I was with him, he's talking past tense already. When I was with him, so how is he gonna secure me the Spence fight when I'm not with him? I'm moving forward with my career. Where do you think this takes Bud? Tiffanie, what you got?
I have no idea where he's gonna go. Like, honestly, like I thought about it. I didn't know if he was gonna like maybe jump over to PBC, but I have no idea where he might go. Maybe the Zone, but I'll just say Bob Arum is I can't stand him as a promoter. Like, he does a horrible job. I guess he expects his fighters to promote themselves. He's been on many interviews saying that Terence Crawford lost him money, and this is his number one fighter. So it's just like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? And back in the day, Floyd Mayweather was all up against Bob Arum. He said he did a horrible job promoting black fighters. Yep. He was promoting them in Hispanic areas and doing things, and it hasn't stopped. That was years ago. he still hasn't done a good job of promoting his fighters. And so I'm not really sure where Terence is going to go, but hopefully, you know, we get to see him hopefully unify at 147.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we shall see. Courtney, what you got, man?
All right. If Tiffany hadn't said it, I was gonna go ahead and just make mention of it. I think Bob Arum, I think his genius in one point or one aspect is he is a genius at promoting fighters to a certain demographic. That's why he's promoted all sorts of fighters of all backgrounds, all nationalities, from all over the globe. That's why every Olympic cycle he's got his pick of guys. You know, it's not just from Team USA, but basically, they awarded 10 gold medals, or the medals in 10 divisions at this last Olympics. What I'm saying? It's standard top rank is gonna get, they're gonna get 5 to 6 of the gold medal winners. What I'm saying? And then they're gonna go down the line and be like, yo, we'll take these dudes who won silver and gold too. That's just that Bob Arum, in terms of that, he's demonstrated a lot of genius. There's no better guy of bringing young fighters up from prospect to like the superstar level or whatnot. But like Tiffany was saying, in terms of African American fighters and promoting to that African American demographic, I think Bob Arum he's kind of stonewalled in that, because he's made comments that alluded to it before, is that he believes that boxing and the black is disappearing in popularity in the black community. I don't agree with that at all. I just think that a lot of times, Hispanic fighters, Puerto Rican fighters, fighters from the Philippines, they can specifically be marketed to to those demographics that are here in America. I think black fighters, they unfairly get co-opted as just being American fighters. It's like, damn, yes, we are, as African Americans, we are American, but why can't we have fighters marketed and promoted towards us in terms of what we, of the difference in what we are specifically as African American? I think that's where, with his black fighters, Bob Arum falls short a lot of the time. In terms of where Terence Crawford goes from this point, what I would love to see Terence Crawford do a one-off deal with Eddie Hearn, go on DAZN, and see Virgil Ortiz. I would love that. And a lot of people are saying, nah, Virgil Ortiz is undercooked or whatever. But I mean, shit, if we looking at the performances from Virgil Ortiz, looking at the fact that there's really nobody Golden Boy can really offer him or DAZN, like, why not? Why not? He's gonna have to go that route anyway and swim with the sharks. So I mean, if Terence Crawford, if he was a shark that swam toward him, I would love that shit. Is that gonna happen? No. For all practicality, I think Crawford signing with PBC and aligning himself with Bob Arum, that's what makes the most sense. That's what's gonna ultimately secure him and guarantee him the most money. But also, I think the most advantageous thing for him is to go the Canelo route and just be a promotional free agent. If there's fighters that Top Rank can offer him, cool. Do a show on Top Rank. If there's PBC fights out there, which we know there's, eventually that's where the majority of business in the welterweight division is being done. Cool. Get money with Showtime, or PBC, or Fox or whatever. If DAZN has got a guy out there who could generate some cash for the fight, I would love to see him do that. But the thing is, dudes like Canelo are wearing that free agency tag and making the moves and doing what they want to, because they've already secured more. They had already secured more money than they will ever spend before they made that decision. So you have to be a boss. You have to have an empire before you can make that decision. I don't think Terence Crawford is really there yet. I mean, he made good money with Top Rank, but he wasn't making Canelo money to where Canelo was coming. I mean, Canelo walked away from a $365 million contract. I mean, Terence Crawford, at this point, I don't think he's walking away from 50 million, or 30 million or something like that. So, I mean, it's all about the financials and what a fighter is comfortable with doing. But I think Terence Crawford very much wants to find a home, and if he wants to find a stable home, that's going to be on the PBC side of things.
Steven.
So I would agree with Mr. Courtney Tanner there that what he's got to do is get under Al Heyman's wing there and get that love and that fandom for Terence Crawford, because again, you can't go to Golden Boy and get that under Oscar De La Hoya. His own guys aren't even getting that when they have a great Ryan Garcia and all these other guys, Jojo Diaz. All these guys are saying, "Dang, my own promoter didn't mention my name." Ryan Garcia publicly fighting with them. That's not going to happen. DAZN, he could maybe go over there and maybe do a one-off, like you said, because you're going to have to do a one-off regardless, because Spence hasn't fought yet. We don't know how big that injury was with the eye. Obviously, it was big enough that he got pulled out of the biggest fight of his career with Manny Pacquiao. They said, "You don't clear medical, you're out." So now we know Spence is going to have a tune-up fight. He's not going to just say, "I'm ready to go now," and it's Bud Crawford. But we all know that that's not going to happen. So maybe they do that one-off, maybe a Virgil Ortiz with Bud Crawford. But I seriously doubt that, because Bud Crawford has been interviewed by Chris Mannix on DAZN, and he said, "Hey, what's going on with Spence?" And Bud kept that tune of, "That Spence fight's dead. I'm past that." Okay, well, what about Virgil Ortiz? Well, he's too green. He needs to fight Aegis Kovalevskis. He did, and we haven't heard anything from Bud about Virgil since. He told him, "Fight who I beat, and we'll see." He did it in a round earlier, and no mention from Bud Crawford about Virgil Ortiz ever again. So Bud's going to have to take a stay busy fight, because Spence is going to have to get his tune-up fight, and then maybe we're talking about it later 2022. But meanwhile, Al Heyman showed he can have a guy like Plant and Benavidez, who everybody knows they need to fight each other, but their own stars can grow we'll keep them avoided for now, but they're going to grow, and both get the love that they need. And now they're big enough stars that they can do what they need to when we put them together, and the winner gets the lion's share. So I think he needs to get under Al Heyman, because Al Heyman's got a proven track record. Everybody's in the ring thanking him before Jesus. So I think, why not, do a 2-3 fight deal with Al Heyman. But before you jump into that, do your one-off to stay busy with DAZN, get big money. Like you said, maybe fight Virgil Ortiz. If you can beat him, that's a ton of Mexican eyes that are now on you, that are going to rock with you, just like Josh Taylor got from Ramirez. There's a lot of Hispanics that are now the Tartan Tornado fans, because they saw him dismantle Ramirez, and both their stocks rose from it. So I think fight your one fight, stay busy, fight with DAZN or who you want, and then come back in with Al Heyman, marinate that fight, or not marinate, but because it's already been that, but start scheduling it to say, okay, but Al Heyman's going to say, "Okay, Bud, you're going to fight this gentleman. Spence, you're going to fight this gentleman, and we're going to plan to have this fight, in the next 12, 18 months, because now y'all are on the same course." Just kind of like Charlo has with Benavidez now, where when it all shakes out, those are the only two guys that can fight each other. Everybody's got a dance partner. You got to get back on that rhythm where you need to get on that dance partner scene where, hey, this guy's free at the same time I'm free. Not, well, he's tied up already, so it ain't, it's not going to match up. So I think that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Pretty much with everybody that, like, either going. So first, one thing that I've said since he re-signed with Top Rank, he should have gone the Floyd route. Like, I knew that this shit was gonna go this way. Everything that you all said, like how he's been marketed, Aram's comments, all of these different things. Floyd saw that shit and he left. But he also started his own promotional company. Is just like, we were kind of talking a little bit pre live on being on air. when we were talking about, what the attendance, and the everybody coming out for this fight and supporting this fight, like what that looks like, and with both of these guys that have never been like really really big when it comes to numbers, and packing the house like that. We do know, and as Courtney alluded to when we were having that discussion, is Bud has a tremendous following, from his hometown with Omaha, Nebraska. He's fought several times in front of his people, and they come out for him. And they came out for him for this fight. And whether those numbers, which remain to be seen, and those numbers will be shown, in the next few days, as far as like the pay per view numbers and things like that. He should have planted some seeds early. In my opinion, like he should have banked on himself, and he should have done what many of fighters have done in this type of era where it's more business minded. Is created his own promotional company, and been he could have been a good 5-6 fights deep into building that business, and at this point, he could have his own way a little bit, and be able to even put himself at the seat at that a seat at that table, when it comes to where he goes from here on out. But yeah, that free agent route, that will be very up his alley, in my opinion. And then also getting on PBC and just saying, "What's up now?" Like just popping up on him and saying, "What the fuck is up now? Let's get it." Courtney.
I mean, in terms of this, also, this just popped into my head. We look at the two major people, or three who have gone the independent route and been their own promoter and stuff like that. We look at Oscar De La Hoya, we look at Floyd Mayweather, and we look at more recently Canelo Alvarez. The main thread that ties those three together, when you think about how and why they were successful in doing that, is charisma. And I'm not saying that Bud Crawford isn't charismatic. I just don't think that shit's shtick. You know what I'm saying? I think Canelo, I think Floyd, I think Oscar De La Hoya, they all had the business acumen to do that, to where they could train, they could live a fighter's life, and they could jump in front of cameras, they could go to business meetings, they can look at numbers and stuff like that. I think Terence Crawford is the dude who doesn't want to do all that shit. You know what I'm saying? I think Terence Crawford's the
Yeah.
ultimate. I'm gonna beat your ass in this ring. I'm gonna go back to the block in Omaha. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go out to my house out in the country. I'm gonna fish. I'm gonna play with my dogs. I'm gonna wrestle with my kids. And you know what I'm saying? Fucking whip one of my old school whips around. And then, I'm gonna call somebody else, who's supposed to be handling the shit, and ask them, what's next? Who am I fighting next, or whatever? And I'm not knocking him for that. You know what I'm saying? But I think promoting yourself, you have to have vision beyond that. And I just think, what I'm saying, I think Terence Crawford is the dude who doesn't want to be bothered, like, with that. So I think ultimately where he's going to be the most comfortable in his career, where he can just focus on the camps and just focus on being the best he can be in the ring, is if he has another promoter or somebody else pushing him as a product, as a brand, as a business interest. And I think, ultimately, if he's on that, then the only place he can reasonably land is with PBC.
Yeah, and
And one more thing,
go
Tommy. I
ahead.
know, I know you're hosting, and I know time is running down on us. But hey, I just want to remind you, man, we cannot get off the air until we talk about this Canelo going to cruiserweight thing, bro.
Hey, we gonna kick right to that shit. Hey, and I'm gonna kick to Steven in a minute because I know he has something. So one other piece that I will say, Courtney, like you said, the one common denominator that you saw in all three of them was the charisma. Another common thread is the Hispanic community and their love for boxing. So you had Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo, which they're on the love side, but Floyd was on the hate side. And Floyd made it very clear, whether you hate me or love me, you are going to watch me. And people would pay and come out and cheer or be pissed and fight, whatever it is, to see him in the ring. And I think that was one of those things that also goes back towards that charisma, because Floyd made it a point to do those things as that villain. He took that villain role when he switched from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather. He went and he tried he didn't try, he did. He took over, Cinco de Mayo, and the Hispanic time frames of the year that are highly and wildly celebrated. He took that over, like he villainized it and made it to where it's like you have to focus on me, and you're gonna hate it, but you are going to pay for it. So that, I mean, he was able to flip that, and that does go to your point of that charisma, because it takes that charisma to be a villain as well. You can't just be loved, and it comes with that energy. You got to be able to have that energy, and be comfortable in that hate. And that was one thing that Floyd did. So I agree with you on that one, man. Steven, you had something?
I was just gonna say, just to Miss Tiffany's point, Bud is the walk it, not the talk it, and the other guys are all very much the talk it. But the last thing I will say on that for Bud is, look where he's from. Not knocking it, because you be proud of wherever you're from, but even Floyd knew to get out of Michigan and get into Vegas, another boxing hotbed. Bud is not born in California and LA. If Bud was born in LA, we never have these problems. If Bud was born in Philadelphia, we don't have these problems. If he's born in Miami or Texas, Bud's got built-in fan base just by the fact of where you're from. But when you think boxing, you don't think, sad to say, Omaha, Nebraska. So, that's another thing that's not to his fault. Nothing he can do about that. But Omaha's coming out. But could you imagine if LA came out, Miami came out, New York came out, Texas came out? That's a whole nother ball game. So that's not his fault. But even Floyd knew, hey, when we talk boxing, we're not talking Michigan. I'm moving to Las Vegas. And then he built his empire from there. He just started with a stronger base. And that's another thing that, to Floyd's brilliant business mind, making TM shirts with the Mexican flags. He did it with the Filipino flags. He didn't care, but he got fans regardless. You got fans there, I'm going to split them. So that's just the thing that's Floyd. That's not so much Bud. And both supremely talented, but just on the business mind, just different. And that's okay too.
Facts.
I will say it's really dangerous though in Grand Rapids. It's like it's really dangerous there. So he could have been getting the hell up out of there to get away from crime. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Oh shit, it's dangerous in North Omaha, yo.
Man, Terence Crawford has Warren Buffett at his fights. I don't know anybody that has Warren Buffett at their fights.
Well, Warren Buffett's not putting his money into none of Terence Crawford's promotions.
Hey, and maybe if he did, we wouldn't be talking about this right now either. So.
We need some of that Coke money into Bud Crawford promotions for sure.
That's right. Hey, Courtney, he asked for it. Canelo. Calling that shot. Continuing to, so a lot of people won't say that he's daring to be great with this, but he's daring to be great. Regardless of the opponent, he's still daring to be great. And there's going to be some hate. There's going to be some love. There's going to be a lot of talk about it, and it already has been. So Canelo calling that shot, saying, hey, I'm trying to move up to cruiserweight and take this shit over too. Courtney, you wanted it. First shot. Let's go.
Man, we can almost have another segment on this, man. We can almost do another hour just talking about this latest Canelo move and all the speculation that's going to come with it. My main thing is like, wow. The two things that hit the wow factor for me. It's, the wow factor is in that nobody saw this, but it's almost eerily similar to the move he made, to the flex he had when he went up to 175 and took on Kovalev. In that, it came out of nowhere, but then when it materialized, it made perfect sense. Him fighting Kovalev at 175 is, you looked how it was lining up at 175, who was there, and you immediately saw it. He's like, he's taking on the weakest link in that division. And then fast forward to where we are now, is, all right, says he's going to the cruiserweight, and now he's picking up a dude who has a belt, but people can't even pronounce his name. I think it's Makabu. but it's the same flex. It's the same flex as when he went to 175 and took on Kovalev. So as surprising as it is, it's not surprising because we've actually seen it before, and we've actually seen this rationale. The other one is, damn, this dude had a whole sanctioning organization with the WBC realign their the weight divisions for him. I think the WBC had this envisioned when they made the Bridgerweight division. That happened about a little over a year ago, and everybody was like, "What the hell is the WBC doing in making this wedge division between cruiserweight and heavyweight?" And it's not even a clearly defined division. You don't even know if it's clearly between those two divisions. It's like a floating division. And people are like, what the hell is the WBC doing? But then they made the announcement that with the Bridgerweight division being out there, they're going to lower the cruiserweight division's weight limit from 200 to 190. And then we hear Canelo saying, yo, I'm jumping to cruiserweight to fight Iliango Makubu. Like, crazy. When we talk about moving mountains, Canelo is moving a sanctioning body. Like that's crazy. Is it daring to be great? Obviously, because he's going to make history. He's going for the history on this one. No other Mexican fighter has been a 5-weight division champ. He becomes a 5-weight division champ. He puts himself up there with Floyd. He puts himself up there with Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns. It's crazy. I'm still processing a lot of it. I know we're at a limited time frame. We're towards the end of the show, and we got 2 other people on the panel. So I just wanted to give my quick thoughts on it, and I'm gonna kick it back to y'all. But yeah, it's wow factor big on this one.
Hey, Steven, what's your thoughts, man?
Being new, how much? What time do you have to kill it? Or
we good. We good.
Okay.
We towards the end, but we gonna
Okay.
we try to respect everybody's time, but we can keep rocking. So
no worries.
Go for it.
I can talk for hours on this stuff, but I'll kind of piggyback off of Mr. Courtney. With the WBC and Canelo, we kind of saw the way Eddie Reynoso and Suleiman are like best friends. Pretty much that's a match made in heaven right now for anybody that likes money, because the WBC and Canelo are printing money because, we see Canelo wins the WBC. Respectfully, they've got brand new made belts. They're making up belts, for Canelo when he jumps in there. People are like, I thought he won 4 belts. Why is there 7 on his waist? The WBC made a limited edition special one. So they're right now the best buds, because when you're making money with your friend, it's all good times. We got to remember that Mr. Courtney said that the Bridgerweight that he moved the weight, but it's in brand new division 1 year, so it's not like Canelo said, "Oh, I don't like this welterweight weight, so let's change it for me." It's fairly new, so I think it had to. When it came out, people were like, "Why do we have another division, another belt holder?" But now Canelo's just working it to his advantage. Because at the end of the day, you add 22 or 32 pounds to your favorite fighter, whether it be a Bud Crawford, a Spence, a Taylor, add 32 pounds to any of these guys, and then now look at the weakest champion that they have to fight, and then you tell me Canelo's not doing something that's pretty great. That's pretty hard. I don't care who you are, whether it's from 115 pounds all the way to 147. Add 30 pounds to those guys, and then see what champion they have to easily pick off, and it's not an easy challenge. That's my thought on that. But it showed whenever the fight just ended, Steven Espinosa and all these guys, Eddie Hearn, said, "Oh, we're all going to give them our plans for 2 or 3 guys each." And everybody already had it written out for Canelo. I saw on the boxing boards and forums, oh, he's going to fight Jarrell, and then he's going to fight the winner of Charlo versus Benavidez. And I don't get how people were okay with Canelo fighting Jarrell, who Benavidez dog walked. But they say, okay, Canelo will, the fans, we're going to allow you to fight Jarrell, and that's okay. But now that he's trying to say, hey, if I'm going to do a stay busy fight for nothing, why not make history with it? And now the fans, a lot of fans can be up in arms saying, well, now he's ducking Benavidez and he's ducking Charlo. Well, what does he get from those guys, from a stay busy fight for those guys when they're not ready to go anyways as their next fight? So my thing is, if you were okay with an Anthony Durrell stay busy fight, so that way you saw the winner of a Charlo or Benavidez, how everybody had it in their mind. Canelo, to Courtney's point, did the ultimate flex and said, "I'm going to fight for the Bridgerweight Championship against the gentleman." Like you said, I don't know how to say his name either, but they're not at the end of the day giving those belts away to anybody. I can't write the WBC and say, "Make me a belt holder." I got to get in there. I got to fight. I got to win. So at the end of the day, these guys are champions. You can't take light of that. And also they said, oh, he's been knocked out before, but he's been knocked out by other cruiserweights, not a guy that started his journey at 147. So we have to take that into consideration too. So that's just my little thoughts on that. But like I said, I think it's just Canelo at the end of the day showing I'm not doing any of that. I'm not taking Steven Espinosa's plan or Eddie Hearn's plan or Al Heyman's plan, even though all of these guys love working with me and we all make money together. I'm going to do what I want to do for history.
Hey, and there's a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, well, he's taking this. Ain't no fucking way in hell that he ain't on no damn steroids or he ain't back on that tainted meat." So
The Canelo Asada.
the Canelo Asada. Yeah, buddy. They feel like he getting that full buffet right now. If he about to move up to this cruiserweight and go after this.
My quick thing is, people can say that, and that's another thing that at the end of the day, we're all boxing fans. We all have opinions. Everybody says, what they want. No problem. But we got to also remember he's got Frank Sanchez that is in his camp, in his stable. He's got Andy Ruiz in his stable. You're going to tell me that these guys, as the millions of dollars they're making, Canelo's going to not say, "Hey, Andy Ruiz, come over here off camera. You might put me down, but I need to get a taste of this." And maybe he does that with the Cuban Flash. Maybe he does that with Andy Ruiz and says, "You know what? I can take those punches, and you've been a champion. So if you're a heavyweight and I can take some of these licks, or I can at least avoid some of the licks." I'm not saying he can take them, even though we all know he's got a granite chin. But if he can say, "You know what? I've hung with Frank Sanchez. I've hung with Andy Ruiz, and these are heavyweights. I think I can do a Bridgerweight that can be slow, and I can utilize my defense." We saw Plant when he fought him just recently. You saw none of the Danny Jacobs head movement, none of the off trial head movement. He didn't even have to put that part into the game plan for that last fight, which was crazy to me. And then when he fought Callum Smith, the guy was like 6'5" or 4. So he's not seeing stuff that he doesn't know. Canelo's not ill-informed or misinformed to say, "I'm just going to do this and let's see how it goes." He's doing his due diligence. He's got those guys in his stable that I can promise you they've gone rounds, and maybe Canelo's got dropped. I don't know, but I'm just saying he's not doing that without getting a taste of it.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Tiffanie.
At first, I was kind of like, man, Canelo is crazy as hell. Like, dude, what is he thinking? But I heard, who was it? Juan Manuel Marquez was basically saying that Canelo's not the greatest Mexican. Canelo's got a plan, and he's going to go down as the greatest Mexican fighter in history. He's doing shit that nobody can even comprehend, while the people like the Charlos and the Benavidez are arguing with each other. He's out making history. He don't even need them anymore. He's on a track to do some amazing things, and he's going to probably go down as the best Mexican fighter in history. That's my opinion.
Hey, and just like we were talking about before, Courtney, I saw you mute. Like, remember we were talking about this. Hey, them boys over there hating right now because he about to completely wipe them off the map when it comes down to
out of the conversation. Yeah. He does this like pretty much. Julio Cesar Chavez already conceded, like, "Yo, I'm handing the torch. You got this." Like, but he does this. That completely takes Marquez, that takes Morales, that takes Barrera, that takes Oliveras, that takes all those guys out of the conversation when we talk about greatest Mexican boxers. Like, he does this, those guys, it's him and Chavez. There's nobody else to talk about in terms of that conversation of the greatest Mexican fighters. Like, I mean, it's it's absolutely crazy with the implications that are going to be for this.
Yeah. I mean, he is literally it's simply amazing what he's put forth Not only post the Mayweather fight, but even what he put in before that. Like he came into that fight with what, like 42, 43 fights already. Like, but what
He
he's
had more
done,
fights than Floyd coming in.
yeah, yeah, and professional fights, and what he's done, learning from that fight, learning from the way that it was promoted, everything like that. He was truly a student of the game at that time.
He's doing everything right now in his career the way Floyd did it.
Exactly.
He's doing damn near everything, even down to the out of the ring shit. You know what I'm saying? With the
Yes.
toys, devices, you know what I'm saying? The juggling the women and everything like that. He's doing it. He's doing it all Floyd style. Like the only thing, the only really like subtle difference is he actually married one of his baby mamas. But I mean, that's why. That's why I said the last broadcast. Like I peeped game on that. He had all his kids, the wifey, and both baby mamas sitting in the same row at the fight, and it was cool. It was blessed. Like I was like, damn, this dude is doing everything the way Floyd did. You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of people would scoff at that. Are like, hey, I get, you know what I'm saying? I give him props because I think ultimately in him deciding to do things that way, he wants to ultimately stand at the end of it and say, I did all this shit that Floyd did and I did it better.
And I did
You know
it
what I'm saying?
better.
I did it with more flair. I did it with more flair. I did it with more pizzazz. That's going to be a separate argument to whether he did that or not. But I mean, I love it. We are in an era where Canelo is doing shit that he wants to do the way he wants to do it, and you have no choice but to be along for the ride, whether you love him or hate him. Just like it was with Floyd. Also, I saw a post by Breadman. I forget what his name. He's also doubles as a trainer. Last name Edwards. Um, but
Stephen Breadman
Yes,
Edwards.
yeah, Stephen Breadman, and he was saying the genius thing in this is everybody. The conversation has shifted. Everybody's talking about Canelo going up and fighting at cruiserweight. That's taking the conversation away from what the strategy is. And he was saying this, Canelo doing this is basically showing us that he's a few steps ahead of his detractors and the people looking to fight him and the people looking to cash in and the people who are just casually watching from the peanut gallery. He's already a step ahead of us in that we're all talking about this flex of him going going up to 190, going to cruiserweight, when the strategy behind this or at least the secondary, is that he's forcing these dudes who are in the Canelo sweepstakes to
Hmm.
have to look, to have to look inward and have to look around at their own weight divisions and make the concession. Okay, I'm really gonna have to get a defining win to fight this dude, and those
Yep.
defining wins are gonna come if some of the same people who are also calling this guy out. I'm gonna have to fight one of them. I'm gonna have to fight maybe two or three of them. And I think we call them on Friday night. Bubu Andre had a fight in Manchester, New Hampshire, where he
Yep.
easily dispatched the Irishman Quigley or whatnot. But I think the person who that knob is turning for is Bubu Andrade. And I think because we all know he's been very vocal and very boisterous in him calling Canelo out, trying to say trying to lobby for that fight or whatever. I think he's now got it in his head. It's like, yo, I'm gonna have to take out Triple G. I'm gonna have to take out a Charlo in order to get Canelo if I really want this fight. And if he's thinking it, all it takes is for a Triple G. All it takes is for a Charlo. All it takes is for a Jaime Munguia to be like, you know what? All right, if you're trying to get to me to get to Canelo, I can use you to get to Canelo. And so I think that's the type of dynamic that this move all the way up the scales is I think that's the effect we're seeing in the 160 168 picture.
Yeah, buddy. Steven, you had something you wanted to chime in with?
No, I mean, Courtney said it perfectly. It's just like he did the flex. He says, "I'm gonna go over here, still make my 50 million a fight or 40 to 50 million a fight that I don't really need. I mean, and y'all are gonna have to fight each other." So I don't get why Canelo fought Floyd and lost. And I think that was the greatest thing for his career, because I think what that did was he learned to unlock in his own self the defense that he now shows. I think Floyd gave him a class and he said, you know what? It can't be all gas, no brakes. He learned both. So I think learning that, I don't know why some of these guys like a Charlo to Benavidez, why they haven't fought each other. Munguia, who has been, Eddie Hearn said it, Munguia has been Boo Boo Andre's mandatory 4 fights ago. But we're over here praising Jaime Munguia like he just had a war with 25 and 15 Gabe Rosado, and we're saying, oh, that was a great fight of the year. Are you kidding me? The guy, Gabe Rosado's in there. No, he's a war horse. Don't get me wrong. But any of those other top guys, they beat Gabe Rosado, they're going to be like, oh, okay, and he beat a guy with 15 losses that's in there bare knuckle fighting and other, promotions and stuff like that. So get off that. Canelo, if you look at his career, he only wants challenges. That's it. If you're a challenge or you're a belt holder, he's now looking at you. But as far as like this, I'm Benavidez and I lost my own belt 2 times by myself. I took myself off the road to undisputed. Otherwise, I would have saw Canelo not once but twice. That's your own fault. So don't say, oh, he's ducking me. He don't want this, that. You had your ticket. Nobody feels bad for Steven if he loses his $1 million lottery ticket not once, but 2 times. And that's what he did. Charlo, you're not even at 168 yet. And Canelo is already a Vegas odds favorite to knock out this guy that's 190 pounds. So what are you going to do from 160 to 168 to Canelo? You don't punch as hard as Triple G does. And he came out of that X amount of rounds with Triple G. So these guys have got to start showing themselves why they're different and why Canelo needs to challenge them, to me. And to Courtney's point, Boo Boo Andrade came out there. He started fast, got the knockout, Quigley, at the end of the day, belt holder, and dismantled him. So now it's looking like, well, it looks like Andre wants that smoke. He's calling it out. He's trying to do it. Boo Boo called out Charlo before at a press conference, just like he did at Canelo. And nobody gives any smoke to the Charlo Jamal about, hey, how come when Boo Boo came and tore up your press conference, why didn't you fight him? But he does it at Canelo, and they're like, well, he's avoiding Boo Boo now. That makes no sense. You know what I mean? You did House Party 1 and House Party 2, and you completely forget the first one. And you're giving all praise to the second one. I don't care about, next Friday. The best one was Friday. But you're skipping the fact that he did this already with Charlo, and nobody talks about that. So Benavidez, you need to start fighting a Plant. That would be a good fight. Charlo, you need to fight Boo Boo, or maybe even have like a small 4-man tournament. And it's like, hey, man, you can't deny me anymore. Out of the guys that have been calling you out, I came out victorious out of those 2 or 3. And I think then Canelo looks at you. Otherwise, he's going to keep doing this thing and, no more free lottery tickets, it looks like.
Hey, yeah, Canelo, he's been bossing up on him. We saw what he did when Boo Boo tried to roll up on him. Get the fuck out of here.
With his pops.
yeah, you try to roll in here with your pops, man. Be gone, man.
But this is the crazy thing too, is this is the risk these dudes at 160 and 168 who are looking to cash this Canelo lottery ticket. This is the risk that they're running. What if Canelo wins this belt at cruiserweight and then says, I'm not going to stay at cruiserweight, I'm going to come back down, but I'm gonna come back down to 175. And then, because if Canelo makes the decision to, say it's like, all right, I'll come back down, but I'm not going to come, I'm not coming back all the way down the scales. I'm coming back to 175. If he does that, they're all essentially fucked. Essentially, the dude's at 160. If Canelo makes the career decision to go to 175 after this cruiserweight fight, that basically Munguia might get there, eventually, but that's going to take Munguia a few more years, for his body to grow in that. Boo Boo is pretty much gone, that's pretty much out the equation for Boo Boo. I would say, I would say a lot of guys, Benavidez can meet him there. But yeah, there's a Triple G that pretty much ends that trilogy. So I mean, with that, a lot of these guys, they need to be like these guys at 160, 168 who are looking to cash in on Canelo. They need to actually try to start operating with that in their mind. Is like, what if this dude never sees the 160s again? If conceivably you can't follow up the scale, it's pretty much time to get the either shit or get off the pot in terms of accepting these challenges from these guys in your weight division, and unifying these belts and just basically start working on your own legacy instead of waiting for a loss to a Hall of Famer to define your legacy.
Steven, did you have something?
I was just gonna say 160 all the way to 175. Better BF and who's the other gentleman?
Bivol.
They should fight.
Better BF, Bivol, and Joe Smith.
Yeah.
All three of those guys need to start, like you said, looking into fighting each other. So that way, when Canelo says, "Okay, obviously I'm not going to stay at 200 forever or 190, whatever it is," now Joe Smith or Bivol or Better BF could say, "Look, I already took out Joe Smith, so I have half of what you're wanting, because if you do go to 175, you're going to try and unify there." So if one of those guys could say, "I've seen this play, I'm going to go ahead and collect two out of these 4 belts myself to secure myself a date with destiny," or they could go the Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders route and say, "Look, I'm staying put because I know I have my one puzzle piece for at least $10 million. But to your point, Mr. Tanner, if he never comes back, he ain't going to 160. That ain't going to happen.
Oh, that's done. That's done.
Yeah. And 168, maybe, but for like
that's dangerous. That's dangerous. I mean, we all saw what happened to Roy Jones when he went down from back to 175. Like, that's dangerous. And Canelo's a smart dude, and he's got smart people in his corner. You know what I'm saying? So
that's my point. Is if I'm at 175, if I'm Bivol or Better BF, I'm maybe a Bivol taking out a Joe Smith or something like that, looking at, well, okay, who's the weakest out of us three? Because I'm going to try and take that guy out and have Canelo see me, because he's going to try and maybe be undisputed at 175 too. He's on the way. That's his career, his legacy, and he's not just going to fight random dudes at 175. He's going to fight the belt holders. So if I like I said, looking at it, if I'm a manager, promoter for any of those guys, I say, hey, we just saw this. Let's go ahead and get an early jump on it.
Because Better BF and Bivol, if we look at it realistically, they should have been fought already. Yeah. The fact that those two haven't already fought is just kind of stupid to me. But
Yep. Man, hey, absolute fire episode. Hey, this has been phenomenal. Appreciate each and every single one of y'all. We're going to go through these last parting words, these parting shots. Tiffanie, the first lady of boxing.
Well, thank you for having me again, and getting to talk about Shawn Porter. He's from Ohio, but Paul's my favorite. And Spence, count your days, because it's a wrap for you, man. Come on.
Hey.
We on countdown. And thank you guys for having me. Always.
Hey, we always love having you on. It's always a wonderful time. So definitely always appreciate you joining us and exchanging these war of words and skipping the pleasantries, as Courtney says. Steven, Ringside Global, man. Hey, absolutely appreciate you. Parting words. Let everybody know where they can like, support, follow, and see you at, man.
Yes, sir. On Instagram, Ringside Global. On Facebook, Ringside Global, and YouTube, Ringside Global. We're just starting out here, just doing boxing's a passion, so we love talking about it. Like I said, put me in the red corner, the blue corner. I'll fight it out either way. I like debating boxing for whatever side. I could be pro Bud today and pro Spence tomorrow. I just love boxing, all aspects of it. I love chopping it up like this. This is amazing. I love guys like you guys that do this, because it just grows the sport. It's so good to have boxing for a lot of people. It just gives people a good outlet, whether you're a fan, you're a part of it. It's all love for me. And this is just something I enjoy. So thank you so much for having me on. Hopefully some more stuff goes down. I didn't wear out my welcome, and I get to come back more times than Tommy Rush shows up at a McDonald's drive-thru for that McRib. I'm here all day, every day, anytime you need me.
Hey, man, most definitely appreciate you, and we will absolutely have you on again, man. Loved it, man. And without further ado, with our Oscar-winning speech, as usual, Courtney Brown Bird Sugar. Take it away, sir.
Hey, you know what it is. You know who it is. For those of you who don't know, I'm also known as Bert Brown Sugar, the one you love to hate and the one you hate to love. Hey, want to give the shout outs. Want to shout out Marcus Naw, Ohio Runs Boxing. Want to shout out the boys at the In Vivo, Sean Hicks. Want to shout out Just Boxing and Anthony Saldana. Want to send mad love to Aaron Soria, who's not on with us tonight, who is celebrating his father's birthday. Happy birthday to Aaron Soriano's dad, and I hope your family is well. Shout out to Michael Gomes, who was in Vegas this weekend, putting in work behind the scenes with us. And want to shout out to Daniel Pena. Want to shout out to everybody who rocks with us in the Pound for Pound Facebook community. Shout outs to Nick Angarame. Shout outs to Chris Ramos. Shout outs to Michael Cockerell, Michael Carbello. Shout out to Antonio Wilkes, my arch nemesis. Want to shout out to want to shout out to Roy Bennett, and shout out basically everybody else. Just because I didn't name you at the moment or make a mention of you doesn't mean you were any less important to us. And also, we are internationally known, and we love y'all. We want to give a shout out to everybody rocking with us across the globe, where borders don't matter. A shout out to everybody who's rocking with us in Latin America. Shout out to our European viewers. Shout out to our viewers in Africa, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria particularly. And shout out to Australia, New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, and the whole Oceania region. Hey, we love y'all so much. It's a movement. You know what it is. Hey, next time you come through, bring a friend. Bring your mom, bring your dad, bring your brother, bring your sister, bring your next door neighbor, bring your baby mama, your significant other, bring your side piece. It don't matter. Hey, rock with this movement, and we're gonna keep rocking with y'all. We love you.
Hey, and they can all sit next to each other too in harmony.
You better have
On,
Canelo. You better have Canelo money for moves like that.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Only in Canelo world. Hey man, and also shout out to Long Live Boxing in Vivo. Most definitely appreciate all of you guys. Shout
Oh,
out
shout
to
out to Front Proof. Shout out to Gary Kittleson. Hey, Joseph Correa, Hector Franco. We love y'all.
most definitely, most definitely. And then just shout out to Aaron Soria, the brains behind this whole operation, man. Shout out, most definitely, shout out to him. Shout out to Michael Gomes and happy anniversary to the Gomes family. So they're celebrating their anniversary. So MG the Great. Hey, we love you, bro. He was out there in attendance, live for so I know he's probably traveling back right now. So safe travels, and hope that y'all enjoy your anniversary, man. But hey, this has been a great episode 75. Milestone 75th episode. We appreciate Tiffanie, Stephen from Ringside Global, Courtney Tanner. Most definitely, I'm the host Tommy Rush. Standing A podcast, man. Hey, we're gonna be right back at it with the hotness and talking that shit. We appreciate y'all. Y'all be blessed.